Oh boy. Well, this is why you don't stream on your phone. Sorry about that. Oh, I lost all my comments. I lost all my viewers. Thanks for coming out, YouTube. Seriously, why do I even upload on this platform? You guys are such incompatible, unuseful. Hi, one person who's now logged in. Jesus, I just lost my entire stream. All right, well, if you've got some questions, let them ring. I'll keep asking for questions as people log in. Yeah, sorry about Theogar. I know I saw you posted a lot of questions. Do you have any more for me here? Because oh, it's Leo. Good stuff. Yeah, I thought the profile. I can hardly see your profile photo, but I guess it makes sense. There we go. Ah, sorry guys. YouTube, classic YouTube. We should make a new social media. It would be great. But then again, I'd probably have to be more professional about my whole thing, and then, you know, that's a nightmare. All right, guys. Well, if you've got any more questions for me, I'll ring them out, seeing as there's already 25 back on here. Hey, Jack. Yeah, I'm still rocking it, buddy. And check it out, the boots. Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm fully jacked out on my gear here. I'm going to set this down. There we go. Oh, all right. Cocoa Beach, Florida. What up, Nomad for Life, down at the beach. Well, I guess I just wanted to cover my research so far. I'm also getting into the other side of electric motors, which is generators and alternators, because I'm looking at putting wind turbines on, and I was thinking about building my own. And so there's a lot to learn there as well. But it's a similar kind of process where you have three-phase wild AC coming out of these motors, and you need to rectify it into DC, and then put it through a charge controller. You also need to be able to bridge that AC so that it acts like a brake. So if you shunt two of the three phases together, then it acts as an electromagnetic brake. And then you also need dump loads and stuff. There's a lot of stuff I've been learning about wind turbines, which is all very similar to the electric motor world. Most efficient stuff is all this kind of brushless permanent magnet AC stuff. This one's a DC one, but similar idea. So you're able to spin these around. You know what? Since I've got a spare one of these, I should just put one of these up in the air and see what kind of power comes up in it. I'll put a big prop on it, hang it in the air, see if I get some juice out of it. I'll do that. You know what? I've got two of them. I might as well. And then we'll see if I can build my own wind turbine to that. Okay, Roland. I only caught the second half of your message here. You're saying that you had a 72 volt instead of 48 volt. So I get 15 kilowatts with the same motor. Can you tell me more about that? Because I'm dealing with something similar. I have a 72 volt motor that I'm programming it down to 48. So I want to see what kind of stuff I'm going to run into on that. It's all designed to run on 48 anyways. It is just the way it's programmed right now. It's not designed, the programming's not in for that right now. So that's something I'm going to have to look into. 3 years rebuilding a layman and managed to mess it up. Back down on the boat. Sorry to hear about your engine problems. Trust me, I know it all too well. But yeah, it is a nice thing about electric stuff, is that you won't spend much time rebuilding the motor, but you might spend a lot of time learning about, what was it? Okay. But you might spend a lot of time learning about the actual electric motor systems, the battery systems, BMS modules, shunts, you know, motor controllers. There's a lot to learn there. So that part of it is a lot. But honestly, I still maintain that it's less to learn than you would have to do building an engine again. Roland says also another good source for electric motors is Thunderstruck EV, which it is. They also have a garage sale section on their website, as do a lot of the other companies that allows you to buy secondhand motor kits. So people will like abandon a project halfway through and list it on that website, and you'll be able to pick up an entire kit: motor controller, BMS modules, batteries, motor itself, throttle, cable, screen for control units, and all that kind of stuff, which might be right the kind of thing you're looking for. So that is an option. I would definitely suggest those websites. I haven't ordered anything from them myself, but a lot of them are starting to list more sailboat and motorboats kits because they're seeing that that's becoming a much bigger thing. Because frankly, the amount of power you need to power a boat is getting to the point now where you can almost make it on the boat. So my boat will be a test of that to see if I can run off solar power alone. And then, but I think like a lot of people are starting to see, okay, well, if I spend 2 days on anchor, I spend 1 day motoring, and they'll balance each other out. I'm able to keep it going. If you have access to a 3D printer, you might be able to find blades for your homemade wind turbine. Yeah, Leo. Unfortunately, you don't really want to do electric, you don't want to do wind turbine stuff with pure plastic. It's just not resilient enough. Fiberglass is kind of the standard. Nylon reinforced fiberglass is very common. But honestly, like I could probably just buy a whole kit online and it's going to cost me less than $100. So why not, you know? And then I've talked a bit about to some professionals about how many blades at what pitch, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot to figure out with that. So I think what I might do is just plug an electric motor to a belt to that motor once I get the rectifier and voltage meters and stuff, amperage meters, see where its peak performance is at as a generator, see what kind of power it can put up. And then with that information, maybe I'll go into building a wind turbine. Or maybe I'll just be like, oh, that was a dumb idea, and then move on to something else. Why reinvent the wheel? There are a lot of EV boats out there now. You can't just find one that works from real world experience. Yeah, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm reinventing the price of the wheel. So if the wheel costs you $1 million, I'm not buying the wheel. And that's the problem. It's like you can buy an electric boat, but the only ones on the market that are anywhere near my price range are just a brushed DC motor, like for like 4 kilowatts, and then like 4 lead acid batteries. I mean, I would hardly call that electric boat. That is enough to get in and out of the harbor, but it's not the way I wanted to do things. I wanted it to be a fully electric vehicle. So yeah, I am in a way reinventing the price of the wheel and reinventing whether or not you can build a hot rod, you know, for yourself, which I think is the premise. I think these days the electric world is getting into that hot rodding course. So that was a question from SVCR. Okay, Roland, I have a 15 kilowatt hour lithium bank and a 15 kilowatt motor, but at normal cruising speed, it runs 4 to 5 hours, and I have a diesel generator 4 kilowatts, which I can use to go indefinitely. Most power is needed when maneuvering for docking. Once out at sea, I don't need as much. Yeah, that's the kind of numbers I've looked at for my boat. I have a 20 kilowatt hour pack, and I think that I'll be able to cruise, you know, nice cruising speed of 5 knots for about 4 or 5 hours on that pack. But I can also make that amount of power I need to move all day long during the summertime. So once like right now I only have 8 panels on board, and I can pull in about 2,500 watts just off of those 8 panels. So once I get all 20 on, you can multiply that by 2. I should be able to make like 6 kilowatts coming in at the peak performance in the middle of the day, and then like tapering off on either sides. But usually you get like, you know, 6 hours here in the summertime of solid peak performance. So by my estimation, I should be able to run my motor at like, you know, some pretty respectable figures for a pretty long time on that system. Now, SV UMA just did a video recently talking about their motor performance, and now they have a monohull. They have a I think their motor is a 48 volt 10 kilowatt, but they say that they only burn 1500 watts to go 3.5 knots. Now 3.5 knots is pretty slow, but 3.5 knots, if you bring in your whole house and you can make lunch, and if you can find the cruising ability, like say you're hopping from spot to spot and just the windows work out that way, 3.5 knots is perfectly workable. They only burn 1500 watts doing that. That's insane. Like if I can do 3.5 knots at only 1500 watts, I could literally run my boat all day and all night, which is amazing. So that would be great. An ocean or something like that, I could run it all my motors the whole way. Although crossing an ocean at only 3.5 knots that's a long crossing. So I think I'm gonna probably still end up getting sails and doing that, but it's just something to think about. The performance out there, like 1500 watts is not a lot of power, and it's very different than building an electric car and wanting that kind of power, like instantaneously surging and keeping up on highway speeds. Like you burn a lot more power going the highway speeds than I do cruising around on my boat. So right, let's get some more questions here. Ford Layman's is a 50-plus-year-old diesels, and they're reliable but really inefficient. Yeah, I have the same problem. I have a 3-cylinder Lister air-cooled diesel still in my boat. It has to come out. A lot of the diesel heads, especially with like the well, a lot of my viewers are in their 60s and 70s. And so I get comments all the time like, oh, why would you take the diesel out? Diesel's the best. Diesel's so reliable. That Lister is the most reliable, bulletproof engine. The main reason is, as you're noticing, it's very inefficient. That motor is 1,400 pounds. It makes 8 horsepower. And that was at peak performance back in like the 1950s when it was built. So today, God knows what. I mean, they're loud, they're slow, they're inefficient, they're smoky, they're bad for the environment. There's a million reasons why I'm not interested in that motor. I'm not just going to throw it out. I'm going to donate it to a mill nearby that can use it to power a remote planing operation. So there's, it's not going to waste, but yeah, it's not the right motor for me. And I could have easily have plopped in another diesel engine and started cruising a long time ago. I probably would have been out and about a long time ago, but this is the cross I bear. I just wanted to do what I want to do. Mike Grady wants to know what's wrong with sails. Nothing's wrong with sails. Sails are great. Okay, Arctic Sea Camel. My uncle is making an electric boat with a regular single-phase AC motor, industrial variable frequency drive. We'll see. Hopefully this summer how it works. It needs inverter, but otherwise it's cheap. Yeah. So Arctic Sea, I talked about this in the previous live stream a second ago. That is the Achilles heel of the induction setup for portable stuff. It's great in a shop where you need a lot of power to run some big piece of equipment or something like that. But on a remote application, it's kind of tough to use them. I am very curious as well. I've got a 3-horsepower, 3-phase motor lying around that I might just buy a VFD because my inverter will run it. Just barely. There's enough power in my inverter to run it. So I would like to see if it like gets me more efficiency, or if there's some reason why I might want to use it. I've got 2 legs to compare one motor to another. So once I have my main motor running, that might be a project I'll do next summer where I will plug this little AC induction motor in, make up a mount, and just compare the 2 apples to apples. Because that's something I'm very curious about, whether or not, especially in boats where like Uma, they're getting away on 1,500 watts. Those 1,500 watt motors are like everywhere. They're $20. It's nothing. So if you wanted like a cruise drive and you had an inverter to run it, why not, right? So that's something I'm going to look at. Maybe it might be like a secret weapon of like affordable, efficient cruising. Roland says he has 800 watts of solar, but does not really do anything over 200 watts in reality here. If there is sun out, it's only a few hours a day in the winter. So that is true. Right now, we are past solstice. I made over 4 kilowatt hours yesterday off my battery bank, which was nice. Off my solar panel, I should say. It was a really sunny day. But in the summertime, I was making well over like 15 kilowatt hours into the battery bank a day, all day, every day. You know, so like that was a huge amount of power I was making. And that's just off 8 panels. Eventually I'll have 20, and then eventually then I might even put more on the boat. So the peak efficiency way up here in Canada, especially because I don't have my panels on an angle. I can't really put on an angle because my boat's always changing directions. So it is what it is. Later on, when I'm down at the equator, I'm sure we'll see much, much higher efficiencies. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I feel your gripe. That's why I really want to get wind turbines on my boat soon, because it's just, man, this is the first sunshine we've had in like, I think it's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks of pure rain and clouds. I barely made enough power to like just charge my laptop and keep my heated blanket going. So it's just not been very fun. Daniel wants to know how many panels I have and how much power. I have 20 panels going on the boat for the first leg of it. It'll total 6,600 watts. They're 330 watts each. They are Canadian solar panels. So there you go. If you get bored crossing the ocean only on your motor, you will get bored. Okay, Roland says I'll get bored. Yeah, maybe I'll like write a book or play video games or prepare for the eventual storms that are coming, whatever. But I also think that this world of solar cruising is going to open a new avenue of like new places we can go. We can hang out in the doldrums all day. It also might make for safer cruising where we're not looking for the wind anymore, which means we're not looking for storms anymore. So we can, you know, really make the most of it. We'll have to see. I don't know. I'm not out there right now. That's a long time away from today. Who knows? This might not even be the boat to get me all the way there. So you never really know. Simon, have you looked into salvaging a Leaf and using the batteries and motor? Madman's dream. I have, but as I stated in the start of the last video, the Leaf burns 200 and like more than 240 volts. I know. So it's like the battery pack's way up there. That's definitely an option for a lot of folks. I would look into it, but when you do that, you also need a DC converter to convert that high voltage down to a low voltage that you can use on your boat, which you'd also need a really powerful one to convert that high voltage down to a low voltage, then back up to AC induction voltage, because as far as I know, there are no AC like inverters that will take like, you know, 300 volts DC. That just doesn't happen. So you could tie it into a one of those units that takes solar energy in at like 200 volts and puts AC power out, and then you could get one of these units. They're huge units. That's one way of doing it. I would definitely look at it. But personally, for me, I just had a feeling that like if I kept it simple at 48 volts, that I didn't need that crazy power that a Leaf motor has, which is way more kilowatts than I'm ever going to need. So why bother jumping the voltage really high when I can run at 48 volts, and now a bunch of electronics work on 48 volts, including my motors, but also an inverter to recommend that kind of power pack system. So I'm going to hold this right now as I swipe through a few more comments here. Arctic says, yeah, that will be great. I believe the induction motor and separate inverter is not as efficient as BLDC, but we'll see. Yeah, the induction motor, I mean, it might not be, but who knows? I know that induction permanent magnet AC motors are a little bit more efficient than BLDC motors. Why that is anyone's guess. I think it has more to do with the controller than the motor itself, but I don't know. That's something I'll have to look into more. Back down at the boat says he lives down in Northeast England and he hasn't seen the sun since 1989. Yeah, I know the feeling, man. We live in British Columbia. Half the year it's British, aka no sunshine, and half the year it's Columbia, aka scorching hot sunshine. So for half the year I know your feel, bro, and for the other half, well, sucks to be you. All right. Well, if that's it, that's all. And the video is, well, Jeremy, my old housemate's telling me my video is choppy. Well, you know what, Jeremy? Why don't you just like fix that for me, Mr. Tech expert? or whatever. Sorry, we got one last question and then I'm going to sign off here. Johan Boven says he's concerned about your big windows in the front of your cabin. A big breaking wave could break them easily. Keep up the good work. Johan, I am also concerned on that. However, what I did was I got A1 glass. So it's those windows are actually not just regular windows. They're extra thick. They've got a coating in between that is like unbreakable kind of thing. Everything's breakable, but they're designed the same way as a car windshield. So I would have to take, say, like a deer flying through the front of my boat at 100 kilometers an hour, which, unless I'm like in a tornado in Oklahoma, I don't think that's likely to happen out on the boat. Water, yes, it's a lot of pressure, but it doesn't have much puncture force. So I would have to have a breaking wave with like a rock, like a big boulder, or no, like a big log, let's say, because boulders don't float. And then that could feasibly punch a hole through it. So yes, it's very breakable the same way as your cell phone screen's breakable, but it will still stay together. So it'll be ugly, but hopefully I won't get swamped. Now, I'm also building my bridge deck, and we'll get to that one later on this summer. I am trying to measure at what level I need to be able to dump water out of the bridge deck. So I'm going to have drains in it, and I'm trying to figure out mathematically like how much water could come in there, and so how much water I need to get out of there and how fast. So that's something I'm looking at, and will be hopefully designed in such a way that I could operate the boat without any windows in it at all, receiving wave after wave into the cockpit, and it would still drain out, and I could still survive that storm. That is something I never want to experience in my life, but that's something I would also like to live through if I did experience. So I'm trying to design elements of the boat project to like withstand that. Part of that is also every eventuality, trying to figure out every eventuality. And the more I think on it, the more I'm like, oh, I should have just got a monohull. Whenever I get storm scared, you know, I see like the big storms on YouTube or whatever, or I'm like hearing some of those storms. We've had some pretty powerful winds the last few days, and like I'm thinking about being out in the middle of the ocean in those conditions, and I'm just like, oh man, wish I got a monohull, but then I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to power it all off of solar power, and cruise with the amount of space and everything else I wanted to do. So there are, exchanges you make. There are plenty of boats here, especially up here in the Northwest, that are designed to handle massive storms, full keel. They're also slow as shit, and they're incredibly inefficient. So yes, they exist. They're out there, and they also sink, and people die on them too. So just try and be as safe as you can, I guess, is all I can really hope for. So we got a few more questions here. I'm going to just browse them really quickly. And yeah. Muscle wants to know if I ever freeze at night. No, I've got a little heated blanket in my berth, and that and a dog and a bunch of blankets over top is enough to keep me warm. But that's also why I don't have any guests in the wintertime, because it's not very comfortable. And we will start having guests again in March when the haul out happens. We'll be doing paint. We'll be making the next stream about that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, or if you've got other questions, hit up the archive of this episode or the last one. Leave some questions. I'll read through them, and we'll cover another topic that I've been researching next week on Sunday at 9 a.m. Western time. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to work. We got another video coming out Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So look forward to that. We'll be covering more of this electric motor stuff and what I actually did for my electric motor. So I'm very excited to share that with you guys. It's fun.